9-0 here.
October 29th, 1984. Just Michael Jordan's third career NBA game. The Bucks were kings of the Midwest, a playoff-tested powerhouse with defensive legends like Sidney Moncrief, bruisers like Terry Cummings, and elite coaching under Don Nelson. And what did a skinny, 21-year-old rookie from North Carolina do? He torched them. Dropped 37 points, 22 in the fourth quarter alone, turned a 9-point deficit into a 116-110 comeback win, and left the crowd with only one thing on their minds. We just witnessed the birth of a legend. Michael Jordan wasn't supposed to be that guy. Not yet. The Bulls had just gone 27-55. They were stuck in a fog of mediocrity, a team in rebuild mode with no real identity, no superstar, and no expectations. Even management didn't think their third overall pick would change things this fast. But something was different. Jordan didn't carry himself like a rookie. He walked into the league like he belonged. And in just his third NBA game, he wasn't just adjusting to the speed. You could say he was setting it. On October 29th, 1984, he delivered something more than a high-scoring night. He delivered a message, a letter to the league. A letter written in spin moves, free throws, mid-range killers, and one savage fourth-quarter takeover. A letter nobody would forget. And what happened next? Made the league stop. And the Bulls? Yeah, they started to believe. Let's set the stage. In 1984, Michael Jordan had just made his NBA debut. His first game was against the Washington Bullets, where he scored 16 points. In his second game, he scored 21. Those were impressive scoring stats for a player who had just started his professional basketball career, right? However, what would happen in that third career game against the Bucks would change his story forever. It would change his mindset, and above all, it would change everyone's perception of him. Because the Bucks, man, they were an incredible team. They had led the Central Division for 5 consecutive seasons. How? With an absolutely insane defense. Sidney Moncrief had won Defensive Player of the Year for 2 consecutive seasons as a 6'3" guard, while also putting up incredible offensive numbers. One of the best two-way players in the world. Paul Pressey also finished 3rd for the Defensive Player of the Year award that season. And Terry Cummings was a relentless scorer at power forward who was an MVP candidate that season. The Bucks were stacked. A young but experienced team with more than enough talent to easily beat the Bulls team that was in the midst of a rebuild. However, on that night of October 29th, 1984, the legacy of all the Bucks players was worthless. Everything they had achieved was worthless because the game, even though it seemed very easy, had to be played. Everyone thought that, against some of the best defenders in the league, Jordan would be unable to do anything. He had no experience. He didn't yet know how the NBA game worked, which is always different from college. But what would have been an odyssey, a mission impossible for any other rookie, was achievable for MJ. On that October night, he would prove why he was the chosen one, why he was that hyped-up player that everyone couldn't stop talking about. And he was anxious for the moment to arrive. The game began in front of the Chicago Stadium fans who, although they knew the odds were against them, would never stop believing in their new superstar. The opponent's staff still didn't know exactly what Jordan's style of play would be in the NBA. In the end, as I said, college basketball was very different. So the Bucks made a mistake, and Jordan was gonna make them pay for not doing their scouting report properly. On the first ball he receives, a pass from Steve Johnson. Moncrief makes the mistake of leaving too much room for MJ. Of course, MJ drills the long 2 with ease. The Bulls were a very young team. This was clear when you saw that their starting point guard, Ennis Watley, was only a sophomore with 12 months of NBA experience. However, despite his youth, Watley was able to make an incredible entry pass to MJ, who only had to finish the layup to get his 3rd and 4th points of the night. The North Carolina superstar had started the first quarter on fire and was unstoppable. Moments later, Michael received the ball on the right wing. After going right, he drives baseline to score a reverse layup that surprises all the Bucks defenders. Now, as if it were a training drill, MJ receives the ball in the same position a few moments later. But this time he surprises everyone with a different decision. Just when it looks like he's going to go right again towards the baseline from where he'll drive, he decides to pull up from 15 feet to knock down the jumper. The fans at Chicago Stadium were realizing in real time how the hype surrounding Michael Jordan was totally real. Moreover, Jordan wasn't just surprising on offense. He was also doing it on defense, disrupting the offense with his quick hands. Not only that, but thanks to his deflection, he got a spectacular dunk in transition, immediately turning defense into offense. It's incredible to see, during some moments of the game, how empty the stands at Chicago Stadium are. There was only one reason for that. Chicago fans didn't yet know what their new superstar was capable of. However, that would soon change. MJ was able to continue his aggressive play, which allowed him to go to the free throw line like an all-star, even though he was just a rookie. And that aggressiveness was also evident on the other side of the court, because Michael, in addition to being able to generate steals to gain extra possessions, was also able to protect the rim like a big man. Look at this play, where he swats Paul McKeskey's shot right into the stands. Just a few moments later, on a baseline inbound set play, Michael receives the ball at 15 feet. He's wide open, and of course, he makes the Bucks defense pay. That would be his last basket of the first half. Thanks to Jordan's spectacular performance, the Bulls went into halftime trailing by only 1 point on the scoreboard. This was worrisome for Chicago Stadium fans. If Chicago couldn't win the game with Michael playing like a star, what could they really do against one of the best teams in the league? Well, what they didn't know was that MJ wasn't a star. Even though he had only played 2 full games in the NBA, he was already a superstar, and the Bucks' fate was already sealed. It was completely inevitable. Because at the start of the third quarter, Jordan stepped up his game even more. After another difficult entry pass from Watley, MJ was able to get the layup just after an intimidating power dribble. The Bucks' big men tried to stop his drives with fouls, because that was the only way he wouldn't score. But that night, Michael couldn't miss a free throw either. Similar to that play we saw in the first half, Jordan continued to apply a lot of pressure to the passing lanes. This time, he gets another deflection, and the result is very similar. Michael runs out in transition to finish with a layup, in which he dodges his defender. Not only that, but he was able to draw the foul for the and one. Despite his lack of experience, the Bulls were already giving him the ball to lead the offense as soon as the fourth quarter began. He was their best option, but on many occasions, he didn't need his teammates. This play is a perfect example in which MJ, after bringing the ball up, goes into attack mode. It's him against the world, and then he surprises everyone when he knocks down one of the first turnaround jumpers of his young NBA career. It's a shot he would master and turn into one of his main offensive weapons. Moments later, he does it again. He goes right off the dribble and then knocks down a long 2 in the face of one of the best perimeter defenders in league history. If he couldn't stop him, who could? Of course, the show was far from over. On the next play, Orlando Woolridge drives right, draws the double team, and then finds MJ in the short corner. A shot that, despite Jordan's youth, was guaranteed money. But with every minute that passed, Michael was capable of surprising everybody. In transition, it didn't matter how many defenders there were. He was unstoppable in the open court. Look at the insane layup he gets after going all out to the paint, getting the and one as well. The Bucks had realized that this kid was for real, and the commentators echo the incredible play they just saw with a resounding, "How in the world did he do that?" What they didn't know was that this wasn't an anomaly. It was normal. It was part of his bag. On the next play, he proves it again. From the top of the key, he drives right through the middle of the paint, which is packed with Bucks defenders. Not only does he knock down another difficult layup, but he's also fouled in the process. His celebration spoke for itself. He was realizing that there was no one among the pros who could stop him. Michael Jordan's takeover in the fourth quarter had been completely surreal, and thanks to him, the Bulls managed to close out the game with a 6-point lead on the scoreboard. No one gave them a chance. The coaches still didn't believe in the Bulls' potential, but that night, everything had changed. His performance that night had an irreparable effect on Michael Jordan. Like all rookies, he came into the league cautiously. He knew the NBA was different from his days in North Carolina. When he first stepped on the hardwood, he didn't even know if he could be the guy. But it took him 3 games to find out. If you score 37 points in a game, like Michael did that night, you have to be good. Especially if you're able to score 22 in the fourth quarter, when the ball was burning in every player's hands. But you could also have had a lucky night, right? However, against the Bucks, there were no lucky nights. Facing one of the best perimeter defenders in league history, who also led one of the best defenses anyone had ever seen, there was no such thing as luck. Players like Moncrief and Paul Pressey were capable of locking down any player in the league, especially rookies. They were used to putting them in jail, but they couldn't contain MJ in the most important game of his young career. That night, October 29th, 1984, was much more than just a game. It was a revelation. A kid with no business dominating veterans did more than dominate. He rewrote the script. Sidney Moncrief was supposed to silence him. Terry Cummings was supposed to outmuscle him. And the Bulls, they were supposed to lose. But that night, Jordan decided to rewrite the rules. 37 points, 22 in the fourth quarter. A rookie announced himself to the world. And in doing so, he showed us all what belief looks like, what obsession looks like, what greatness in its rawest form truly is. This really wasn't the day Michael Jordan became a star. It was the day he decided to become a legend. And the league? Man, it would never be the same. Now, was this the night MJ knew he was him? Or was he born knowing it? Drop your favorite early Jordan memory or MJ game that made you a believer. We want to hear your story. If you live for legendary breakdowns, epic rivalries, and the moments that made basketball history, subscribe to First5 Hoops and join a community of real basketball fans. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.